Hey, welcome everybody. It's Friday, and we're live at the Nutmeg Tavern. And, whoa, we've had a very, very full couple of weeks. We missed you last week because we were down at Martin Station, but it's nice to be back in the tavern. I'm John Townsend, your normal host here. Normally, Ryan is back here behind the bar, but Ryan is on the road today. I think he's playing in Lima, isn't he?
I can't remember the town he said.
Yeah,
he's playing music.
Yeah, he's playing music. And so, but I got the other guys behind the scenes. Aaron is on the console, making sure that stream stays in line and all that chat stuff too. Kyle is in the question seat over there, and he's going to be grabbing up those great questions and sending them my way.
Yes, got some good ones already.
Yeah, so good questions already filling up. So yeah, it's Friday, and wow, it is. I'm like tired because we did all this stuff previous, and then Ryan and I were down at Martin Station. We spent like 5 days down there. Ivy was with me, and then as soon as we got back, we had 1 day to breathe, Monday, and then we started shooting a 3-day experience, building something this week. So we're all just kind of tired, but it's Friday. Wake up! It's Friday. Kyle. You got a couple good questions for me.
I do. First one says, do you know of somewhere I can find primary documentation of what people with disabilities did in the 18th century to earn a living? It's a big question.
Primary documentation on people with disabilities learning. Not off the top of my head. But I know that you will find that out there. No, I don't have a good question or have a good answer for you. Although there are some things that the Maggie Delaney character, she's out there probably right now watching the live stream, and she's been working on some. She's been working on poor people research, and we've been kind of sharing some stuff back and forth, talking about that a lot because we spent some time with her over the weekend, her and Frank, and there's probably some really good stuff there. It's just not popping into my mind at the moment, but I will keep that in mind for you.
Haven't noticed John talking too much about mushroom ketchup lately. Has nutmeg replaced his first food love?
They're both right in there. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that you can get nutmeg into mushroom ketchup, make it even better. No, I love mushroom ketchup, and it's I just sort of put it in all my modern foods, and I don't really do it into the period foods all that much because they're so it's one of those things that's going to enhance the flavor in a way that maybe we want to experience it without it first, and then you can toss it on, especially if it's stockfish, and make it a little better. Anyway, no, I love mushroom ketchup, and I have it. I always have it, right? And when I'm sitting at the dining room table, there's a bottle of it right over here on the thing, so I have it all the time.
That would have been good in that stockfish stew.
Oh, yeah.
But it would be good in everything.
And then nutmeg, too.
Yep.
What strategies were used for keeping cool during the summer, both one's person and food stuff?
Well, they especially as you get into the 19th century, they start experimenting with cooler, drinks, and you'll hear about things like sherbets, which maybe not are the same thing as we imagine when we say that word. They are doing things like ice cream, especially toward the end of the 18th century. That show up more and more in the cookbooks. Cucumbers and things like that have a cooling effect to us. So there's certain kinds of foods that they thought were cooling, whether that's actually physically cooling or a cooling kind of food. They have these kind of classifications of hot foods and cool foods, and they meant sort of chemically, not temperature wise. That's on, and of course they had ice as long as they could get it to last into the summertime. To have cool drinks, they would put their drinks or other kinds of food things in springs to cool them off by groundwater temperature. They might put things down in a well, so they would take a cool drink, they put it in a bottle and on a string, and they'd lower it down the well to cool it off. So a lot of different techniques for that.
Was the Navy or Army more dangerous? Which was more prestigious in England? Interesting question.
The Navy seemed way more dangerous, at least from stuff that I've seen and read back in the day.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
That's a tough call. I would say, I'll go with the Navy being more dangerous because you can get killed by the enemy or even more likely killed by the weather or your ship falling apart or whatever it is. So I'll say the naval actions are more dangerous. Disease, but they're all dangerous. Even without the enemy out there, you can get diseases and very easily in those kind of environments that you're in, and that they just didn't have very good ways to cure people. So, more people are, more of those military guys are dying from the disease than they are from getting hit by bullets or cannonballs. Let me tell you. Prestigious. It's just I don't have a good way to make a call on that one.
I'm going to do some donations real quick.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone who's donated.
Yes.
Planet Express, thank you.
Thank you.
Will there ever be an episode on other colony-based food like Australia or South Africa? Max are cool, thank you. Here's to the end of long, hard weeks. Thanks for sharing your Friday with us. Thank you. And then Keltoid 5. How would one post a letter? Dropping off, transporting, and delivery? ? And was John sitting on a new canoe in that recent video? New canoe.
Oh yeah, on the Stockfish. Remember, I smashed the Stockfish with the hammer. I was on canoe number 3 there. It's not very far along, but in that original canoe video where you see the giant cottonwood falling down, and then I say I had to give up on that cottonwood. I did not give up on that cottonwood. I spent weeks getting that log. Months getting that log out of the woods. It took a long time to get that log out of the woods because it weighed so much and it was in a very difficult position.
Yeah, and I think what we should have said in that video, because we got some little bit of heat for that. We should have said we can't get it out in time to do the video. We got it out. It just was going to take longer than. Yeah. And they're canoes now. So
right.
But anyway, yeah. Let's start with the colony-based food like Australia or South Africa.
So colony, I don't know. I would like to, especially if it relates specifically to North American food, or at least counterbalances it in some, a comparison kind of a way. But of course, I don't have those kind of specialties. I'm not in those locations, and some of those things can be hard. But if something pops up, I would love to cover it.
And then the beginning of the Keltoid 5 one was posting a letter.
Yeah.
The transportation and delivery of it.
You know what? Stay tuned on that. We will be doing a whole giant series that is related to that. Writing, all of those things that have to do with letters and posting and quills and ink. Or we've got this giant series of videos that we're working on right now. And they should start to roll out in June, mid-June, something like that. And I'll have a lot more information on that. That's being researched, and we're working with somebody else on that as we speak. So I can't wait. That's the next big project in the works. We've got lots of big projects. We're the spinning plate thing. We've got about 14 plates we're spinning right now. Yeah. So great stuff is in the works. That's part of it.
And then Aaron C, thank you. I was kind of wondering, do you kind of want to do a debriefing on Stockfish?
Yeah, I would love to talk more about Stockfish. The Stockfish episode I spent a lot of time researching on the Stockfish episode, it took a long time for me to get the materials available. And even when I had the materials available, had to try it over and over again to get kind of where I wanted to be with Stockfish. So, Stockfish, amazing topic. If you've got specific stockfish questions, I'll do my very best to relate what I can. One of the early problems with Stockfish, of course, as soon as I read about Stockfish in Nicholas Cresswell's journal there, I was just immediately amazingly intrigued. I have to figure out what this is. Start looking up Stockfish. Start doing the research on the weird things how Stockfish shows up. It shows up in Shakespeare, and he talks about somebody being a really, really skinny person and mentioning Stockfish. And you saw how skinny that dried up Stockfish was. There was a section in the mid-18th century where they were trying to encourage the importation and use of stockfish in England, and it didn't really take. And obviously from Cresswell's experience, he doesn't run into stockfish until he's on board that ship. So he's growing up in England, normal kind of middle-classy kind of life, and stockfish, he had no idea what it was. So it is something that's very, very specific to either locations in Europe at the time or a situation like a naval situation where that's the kind of provision they happen to have on board the ship. So very and it was such a weird product to work with compared to what I'm normally used to cooking. Very difficult to find. I went on Amazon and I found a couple of different sources, but it was already cut up into chunks. Some of it was flaked up, where I think it was, I don't even know how they make the flake version, but dried stockfish flakes, which probably would work really well compared to the regular stockfish. The other pieces were like the fish I had, but sawed up into little 3 and 4 inch chunks. Weird. But I wanted to see the whole stockfish, and so I had to buy this giant, case lot of giant stockfish. It was hilarious, though, and I'm still flabbergasted by the product itself.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most amazing things was when you get the stockfish and you're looking at it, and it's like, I don't even know what you would do with this, but then when he showed me the one that was soaked, they almost didn't look like the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it was a totally different fish or something.
Yeah. It is amazing. An amazing thing that you sort of like one of those little micro sponges, it's a little pill and you throw it in the thing and it turns out to be, 7 inches long or whatever it is, some dinosaur. The stockfish was like that. You throw it into water and wait, and then all of a sudden it's a reinflated fish. Very strange.
And the video is doing really well. Thanks to everyone who's watched it. We're really excited about the numbers and that people are engaging with it. Because it was a fun recipe, and it's super, I don't know, it's one of those.
And there are some episodes that I spend literally, weeks and months, a little bit at a time, researching and putting together. And sometimes they just, no one really cares. And then I'll do, a baked onion. I'll spend an hour doing that, and then it goes crazy. So it's nice to have one where you put a whole bunch of effort and time and resources into, and people actually enjoy it.
Right. Do you want to go into some of the Martin Station stuff? Because I know Maggie is watching.
Oh, is she out there? Maggie, thank you for watching. We went to Martin Station, which is kind of that in the Cumberland Gap area where the bottom of Tennessee and Kentucky and Virginia all come together there in one little spot. Just amazingly beautiful neck of the woods. So if you ever get a chance to visit that area, it's gorgeous. So we went to Martin Station early, and Maggie was there to be there just with us so we could do this long laundry. We spent almost all day playing in the laundry. Well, she was in the laundry. I didn't play with it at all. But and that was just a wonderful experience. We learned so much about period laundry, and it's a whole lot more complicated than you would ever expect. You can think, oh yeah, 18th century laundry. They're slapping their clothes on a rock down by the river, and close enough. Then let's set it out to dry and done. A lot more complicated than that, and a lot of science in there, and history lessons and all sorts of things, strange words that we have today that pop up in there. So it was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot. And then we went right on. Then people started to arrive for the event, so we spent a lot of days at the event in Martin Station. It's just an amazing group of people to interact with. Lots of friends since we've been there for several years, and wow! Special thanks to Billy Heck, who's the sort of the interpretive lead there. And another thing that's brand new at Martin Station. I don't have a picture of it, but they had a new Native American dwelling, a winter house that they've built there over the last 6 months. I think they're working on it last summer. I didn't see it last year when we were there, so they've started it since May of last year. That structure is amazing. 30,000 cattails cut for the roof. It's got a wattle and daub exterior with these big poles and everything. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's amazing to see that Native American structure there, based on writings of people that visited the Cherokee in the 18th century. I was flabbergasted. It was amazing.
Yeah, sounds like a great trip.
Yeah. So I talked about Billy Heck. Simeon England was there. Mike Miller, the gunsmith, helped us out with the video. And there were just more. There's people and people and people. So it's always an amazing event.
Yeah. And before we get back to questions, do we want to talk a little bit about what we did this week, or do we want to keep that completely in the dark?
You don't have a picture to show them, right?
Okay, we'll keep them waiting then.
We worked on another really cool canoe project, not a dugout. You'll be amazed. I was amazed.
Yeah, I still can't believe it.
How about that? Yeah, we get done with it, and it's like, really?
Did that
really?
just happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Did we really just make that?
Yes. So, very cool.
Right. All right. So I guess we can do some more questions. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay. In Great Britain, did people more frequently buy or make their own bread?
Most people are, talking about generalities is very, very difficult. If you're in town, you're going to be buying your bread. If you're out, in a rural area, it's much more likely that you'll be baking your own bread. But even there, many people are going to be buying their bread. But definitely in town, it's a typical thing. It's a thing you go to the store and where you go to the baker and you buy. There's lots of regulations about people selling bread, and of course those regulations are all the way from almost like 12th or 13th century. You have the assizes and regulations about the kind of breads you can sell, the way they're made, what goes into bread, because it is what poor people are eating to a great extent. That might be the only meal. We talk about bread and water, right? It's like, oh, he's gone in prison and he's eating bread and water. Well, that's the typical meal for a lot of people in the 18th century. Bread and water, bread and milk, very, very simple things. So bread is just a very, very important staple. And most people in the 18th century that are anywhere close to a baker, they're buying their bread. They're not baking it on their own because of things like fuel costs, and it's fairly inexpensive if it's made in a mass production kind of a way.
What were the laws like in the 18th century?
That's a really big, really good question. You can cover it you could write a book 1,000 pages and only scratch the surface. So I'm not going to give you a whole giant answer, except that there's a lot more going on there than you would expect, even in the colonies. They're really regulating things a lot. It is not a no man's land of laws where people just do whatever they want. They may not be enforced very well. They may be strange, and you might misunderstand them from a modern context. But if you were there, you understood the why perfectly. So I was even reading last night or the night before about different kinds of laws popping up, and I was kind of amazed at the complicatedness or the amount of small things that they were making laws about, even in the 18th century.
What would you suggest as the essential 18th century starter kitchen equipment pieces for a beginner?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. And I would generally, they're doing a lot of those things in boiling. And, we think about kind of a stock pot or something that we boil food in today. And in the 18th century, their items were a lot more like buckets. That's what they would cook in and boil things in if they didn't have a giant iron kettle. An iron kettle is nice, but it's heavy. They're fairly expensive. They're not as popular as sort of lighter weight tin kettles. So a tin kettle is a great way to start out. And you can use it as a bucket. You can use it to cook in. Those are great, and they're typical for military camps, as well as you would find those in houses. We have the brass kettles also for cooking. If you want something very indestructible, because the tin kettles, they get dented, they rust, they're very susceptible to damage. The cast iron kettles are nearly indestructible. They're wonderful pieces to work with. And you don't have to worry about them. You put them over the fire, even if you might hurt the seasoning in it, but even if you forget it and it boils down to black, goo in the bottom of the pot, you can still just kind of scrape that out and start over again. You haven't damaged the vessel. A simple frying pan is really good. Some wooden spoons. You can really make a lot of the utensils with just carving out your own wooden utensils, even if they're very crude. It's amazing what you can do, even with a hunk of firewood. One time I went to the camp, I forgot half of what I needed. It's like, well, I'm going to make what I need out of this firewood here. Hilarious. It was very fun.
Somebody in the chat said a spider as well.
Yeah, a spider.
I love that spider skillet.
The spider is nice, but they are hard to pack. They're great if you're in a settled situation, a house. A spider skillet is just a frying pan with legs. It can be a little more versatile if you have a trivet with legs and then a separate frying pan. That's very, very nice. But what else? You want a really nice, good, sharp knife. There you go. I think that's the start.
I'm going to do a few more donations before we move on. Where did we... Oh, Julie Stevens, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can never think of a question. There are so many good ones already being asked, so I'll just donate and listen. Thank you. We appreciate that. Boat boy.
Hey.
Would you ever do a video on fishing dories / dorymen?
Yeah.
I'll keep going.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll do a few more. J Files, thank you. Were you a teacher or a historian before doing these YouTube videos? You seem so dedicated to history. Just wondering what your background is. Also, if you haven't, you should do a YouTube video about your life background. Thank you. Nutmeg for Life says, I hope it's a nutmeg canoe.
Then I'd want to be using it up.
Right. And then Jim Lindley, thank you. So, yeah, let's go to the...
boats,
fishing dories, and dorymen.
Hopefully, we'll be doing some fishing things in the future. We talked to a couple people about doing some of that, and we'll see how that works out. There's some really great stuff. Now, dories and dorymen specifically, there's so many different things going on with fishing, and it's a lot more important, especially obviously toward the coast. In the 18th century, just like stockfish, fish in general, where I'm at here in Indiana, we're 1,000 miles from the ocean. Any place. You're lucky if you could, you've got to drive a day and a half to get to the ocean. We've got Lake Michigan. That's as close as it gets, and that's not an ocean. We're not used to interacting with fish as much as they certainly were in the 18th century. Everybody was so much closer to the coast. England, Great Britain in general, obviously they're dealing with fish a lot more. So I'm not as versed on fish as I want to be, so I can really understand their lifestyle and dorymen and different kinds of fishing. Just such a great topic, and I'll just have to go out east and go to Mystic Seaport and some of those other historic sites and just do it. That's all we're just gonna have to do that. Teacher.
Were you a teacher or a historian?
No, I wasn't. I've done this 18th century selling stuff since I was young. So there you go. I grew up in the business. My father built the business from the beginning in 1973, and once I got to 18 or 20 or so, I was an employee and doing things, and I don't know how long it's been. 25 years I've run it, so no, I haven't had a chance to do that. I've always been interested in it, and I love sharing it, so that's where all that comes from. And life story, it's boring. I run this business. That's from John from the start. Went to college for a while for electrical engineering. Said, that's too much work. That's a lot of math. I think I'll do this instead. There you go. Life story. Done.
I've seen some. You were in a band for a while.
Yeah, I was in a band for a while. Whatever.
Now that's the story. Okay,
I don't think so.
We got something back in stock.
Thanks for reminding me, Aaron. Man, it's a good thing you're here. I'd forget everything. So last year, was it about this time? I think it was.
It may have even been longer.
It might have been
2017?
Longer. But I don't know. Hey, who can remember that long back?
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago. The first batch of T-shirts that we did, we had a special design, and that we have a limited edition, very, very small quantity. Well, I don't know. Smallish quantity. Somebody came up with the idea on the live stream, I think. I put nutmeg on my nutmeg T-shirt. We have some available. So Aaron, you got the link in the description section.
It's in the chat.
Yep.
There were 2 shirts.
Yeah, there's the kettle shirt also.
That's back too.
And that one's back. That one's been slightly adjusted. This one, I put nutmeg on my nutmeg shirt. That one's exactly like the original, same strange nutmeg brown color. It's a little darker than nutmeg, but kind of nutmeg. And I saw one just when we were at Fort Frederick. Somebody came up wearing one of those shirts from the first batch. Hilarious. So if you're interested in a nutmeg shirt, you can go to the website. Those are available right now for a very short period of time.
They will go fast.
Yeah,
I've already packed a bunch this afternoon.
Really? Already?
Yep.
Wow.
I should have not brought up you being in a band. Everybody wants.
Don't worry, I didn't make a living at it, so obviously.
Johnny T and the Nutmeggers? Was that the name of the...
No.
That's what someone said in the chat. I didn't come up with that, to be clear.
That's good. Thank you, Aaron.
Hey, let's do some questions.
Where did you find the stockfish?
I think that I found it online. You won't believe this, but I think it's stockfishonline.com.
I was going to say Stockfish R Us.
I'm not joking. I believe it's stockfishonline.com.
Look it up right now.
You can check it around. It's the only place I could find with the whole stockfish. And you got to buy a giant box of them. It's not cheap to buy stockfish. You can buy the little chunks. That works just fine. You only need the giant ones if you want to see the whole fish.
Couldn't imagine what that box smelled like when it came in.
Dan didn't want it back in shipping.
Nope.
Oh, I smelled it.
Yeah.
I smelled it.
I still have some.
But that
Don't
was just
worry.
the one that you
We're
brought
not
in
running
that
out.
day.
Huh?
No,
That
it
was
was
just
a
the one,
box
or
of
was
like
the
4 or
entire
5.
box?
Well,
Oh,
I
okay.
got 2 different boxes
Gotcha.
earlier, and then I got the big box much later. You can get the chunks on Amazon. Still, it's like $20 a pound, no matter what you do. So it's expensive, but it's fun. It's fun, and you could show people. If you have a chunk, you have the one that you haven't used yet. Seal it in like 3 Ziploc bags, one inside the other to keep it from being too stinky, and then you cook it. And then when your guest comes that you serve this to, you're like, oh, they ask you about what kind of fish it is. And then you say, oh, here's a piece of stockfish, or you want to see what it's like before I cooked it. And you can open it up and it's hilarious.
Yes. That pretty much answers my next question. Did the stockfish smell really, really bad? Yes.
Yeah.
The recipe didn't.
No.
When it gets done, and really somebody was saying, I think in the comment section, that they think the smell is in the skin. And I can believe that. What was it? I was working outside, obviously, this week, and there was a snake, and the snake smell reminded me of it a lot. It like smelled exactly like.
Smelled like a stockfish.
Yeah, snakes and stockfish. Imagine a rotten snake,
Oh.
and then you're getting really close to stockfish.
Yeah, it smelled really. We were outside doing it, and the wind would hit it just right.
Aaron wouldn't let me do it in the kitchen.
Oh no!
He didn't want to be
Oh,
trapped in
no.
the German kitchen with the stockfish during the
Absolutely
whole
not.
episode. He's like, no, I'm going to be on the upwind side of this episode. And so, and still he got it occasionally.
Stockfishexpress.com.
There you go.
That's
there you go.
it.
There you go.
Oh shoot! I'm sorry. Whoever just posted that, it sent it to like the spam thing, but I accidentally deleted it. Metal Heart. I'm
Whoops.
sorry. I'll throw the website in there. I meant to.
I didn't do it. He did.
I meant to press show the comment, but here it is. Stockfishexpress.com.
There you go.
Here it
You
is.
want to get your Stockfish Express.
Yeah. Whoa, that's expensive.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It ain't cheap.
All right. Well, thanks for all the
Where
views,
are you
everyone.
gonna get giant, ugly, dried, stinking fish? Where are you going to get them? You got to go to special places.
Like stockfishexpress.com.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Well, what other fish preservation methods were used for other types of fish besides cod in the 18th century?
Well, they dried a lot of fish, and I would love to experiment with doing that with something as simple as bluegill. I mean, around here, you go out to any pond, any lake, you're going to catch bluegill. Normally, I would just go down to my pond and catch bluegill, except I think bass ate them all. But drying them would be a nice experiment. There were many people in the comment section talking about just chewing chewing it like jerky. Can you imagine that, Aaron?
Chewing what? Like
The
jerky? Oh,
stockfish, like jerky.
Oh, yeah.
Chewing uncooked stockfish?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
I can and I can't imagine it.
18th century gum?
Like I would break my teeth on the stockfish we had.
yeah.
It was rock hard.
That
that thing could stand up by itself.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
That and the ship's biscuit. Those poor guys.
Right, they would all had they'd be gumming everything.
Yeah.
So to answer the question from earlier, what's more dangerous?
Yeah,
Yeah.
stockfish.
Stockfish? Yeah, the Navy.
Obviously, the Navy.
No disrespect to the Army. But
Yeah, drying fish. So that's they're obviously salting fish, whether it's cod or other kinds of fish, like the shad at George Washington's Mount Vernon. They cooked the shad straight up when they were running, but most of what they were doing was salting that shad. They barrels and barrels and barrels of salt, and they would salt those a lot like they just salt pork and everything else. You just cut it giant big fillets and you chuck them in a giant pile of salt and done. I guess. I mean, it's really strange. Those are the biggies. You might figure out. I'm wondering whether stockfish is partial fermentation, a very slow, cold fermentation, as well as drying. I don't think it's just drying, or else it wouldn't stink that bad. And it wouldn't have it would have I would imagine a different flavor. There's a lot to kind of understand what's going on there. It seems simple, but
I would love to have the analytics for that website. Just
Yeah,
see that bump,
to watch
like a random
everybody
bump
go,
on
what?
May 17th, all from one spot. All right. Any more questions?
Oh yeah. Is stockfish the same as lutefisk from Norway?
Apparently you can make lutefisk with both stockfish, which is unsalted, and salted cod, and it has to do with soaking it in lye or ashes, and that changes the proteins, and they start to turn into like a gel. So that's what's going on, as far as I know, as much as I researched lutefisk, and that can be any kind of alteration of that, all salted cod, all stockfish, half and half, who knows what. I'm sure there's variations for different locations and what different people would do. Apparently you got to be careful that if you have it lied up too long, it changes its texture too much, but lutefisk is apparently like a gelled version of that. So at least one of the cookbooks talked about soaking in lye. I think that was the professed cook, the translated French cookbook in the 18th century. Most of the other references did not talk about soaking in lye. They were talking about just straight up soaking it in water. So you can definitely do multiple things with stockfish. It doesn't just do one thing. I don't know if it does. Well, it's just wonderful. That's all I'm going to say.
That's another thing to imagine. Lutefish,
Yeah.
stockfish jelly.
And I've never had lutefisk, so I mean, I'm not up in that area like Minnesota where you would find that much better. Maybe even Michigan.
All right, this one gets off the subject of stockfish.
Aw.
Have you done much research into 18th century murder ballads? It is an interesting genre of music.
Yeah. No, not on that topic specifically. They were doing a lot of street ballads, street stories. They would do many different stories of whether it's just sort of I murdered somebody, here's my story right before I'm sentenced to death, and they would tell their own story. So there's certainly a great quantity of news and people telling their stories, crime stories from the criminal's point of view. They wanted to tell those sort of stories, and of course, newspapers. That's what's going to sell in the time period. So they were excited about printing that kind of stuff, and the same way we would get. Well, we don't have it anymore. Extra, read all about it. Little pieces of little partial newspapers that they might put out when special news comes out. Of course, we don't have that anymore. Everything happens online, right? The constant news feed. But they would have those same sorts of things done in song and in ballads in the 18th century, and people would wander around in the streets and sell sheet music. So you'd have a song about something, and you'd sell people sheet music and the words to songs. We just don't have a connection for that. I mean, it's just, we don't have what does that look like? Can you imagine wandering around and people are singing this strange song about some piece of news event? Really weird.
Do your AM Rev soldiers' uniforms come with different cuff colors?
You can ask for specific facing colors. We certainly do like the blue coat with the buff or off-white facings, reverse color with red facings, or sometimes red with blue facings. If we have it available, we can try to do that for you.
Is there any other books on the Queen's Rangers and other soldiers? I have Colonel Simcoe's journal from Townsends.
Undoubtedly, but I don't have any of those off the top of my head.
What would have been the big protein and energy-based meals before battle?
They weren't going to have a special meal. before a battle other than what they would normally have. So, your standard ration of beef or salt pork, that's where you're going to get as much energy as you're going to get.
What books about the 18th century are you reading now?
What have I got? I'm still reading through Midshipman Easy, which is 19th century, but describing naval life all through that late 18th century, 19th century time period. And there's another book on my... I have like a dozen books all stacked up. Because of the video we were doing this week, I've been spending a lot of time in Peter Kalm's journal looking for specific references to the topic that we've been covering. It's like I'm juggling 100 books at once. So whenever some little rabbit trail topic pops up, I've got to go digging into a different book. And I'm always digging in Cresswell's or, Joseph Plum Martin's journal or something like that. The Traboo one, I haven't dug that up real recently, but, there's so many books and I feel bad. I feel it's like, oh no, I haven't picked that one up in a week. I really should read a couple pages. It's always amazing because you never know what's going to pop up. Just recently, someone sent me a letter. I wish I had his name. I need to send him a letter back. A really interesting letter. Carol, if you're out there, I'm going to send you a copy of this. I think I can find a link online. And it was a letter written by Irish immigrants writing back to the home country about how wonderful it was and you guys really should come over. They were Irish Quakers, which I'd never heard about before. And there was a section talking about the clothing and that they were wearing trousers, and this is early 1725, something like that, and just shirts without waistcoats or coats over the top. Just really interesting references. There's so much to do, so much to read.
I'm going to do a few more donations. And again, thanks everyone for all the donations. We appreciate it.
Yes, very much so.
Sean Evans, thank you. As an artist, I would love to see an episode about well-known painters of the 18th century.
Ooh.
I like that idea.
Painters.
Yeah. John Kennington, thank you. I've been doing living history since 1975, and the most common anachronism I see is language. We speak modern but portray Rev War. Is there a good source on 18th century conversation? And then Boat Boy, thank you. If you want more information, I am a doryman / lifeguard.
Hey!
So please do come to Mystic. I'll be at the annual wooden boat show. I'll have my 1942 dory. I think it's Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's painful as I've driven by Mystic within the last year or so. The steering wheel of the car wants to jerk me off the road. So yeah, we gotta visit.
Painters of the 18th century.
Painters. There are a bunch that I just. And when you kind of find a new one or you find something new by one that you've seen, there's a wonderful topic, and maybe we'll do that. Sometimes we've done those kind of painting studies, and I'm not gonna give that away. I'm not gonna give that away. Painters, yes, great suggestion. We'll do our very best to bring you some material like that. Mr. Kennington, language is very difficult for us, and we can purchase an outfit. We can purchase hand sewn clothing, easy, quick, done, right? We can learn skills pretty rapidly, or at least enough to show people, even though we might not be perfect at them. But language is hard to do. Learning a language or just trying to learn to speak something in a dialect or an accent that isn't your own, that's a lot of work, and it is hard to know exactly what they would have sounded like, although there are different, interesting, especially funny. Caricatures are a good way to get an idea about where people were going in the 18th century or even today. They're stereotyping, and you can find plays or books where the characters are written in dialect phonetically, and we can get a feel for what their accent was like. But then you have to practice it and practice it and practice it. We can kind of get an idea about what accents, based on what we think today's accent might have sounded like back then. Yeah, there's a ton there, and I don't have any super good references that I can give you right now, or even that I have off the top of my head. But I'll bet you some other folks that have some great suggestions.
I'm gonna do one more. And
Okay.
Then we'll move on. This is from Keltoid5. Thank you. Mushroom ketchup question. How much of a difference would lime zest make versus lemon zest? Also, being from Arizona, would tequila be a good substitute for the cider?
Well, I certainly can't answer the tequila question.
Why
I have
not?
no idea. It would probably be wonderful, but I have no idea. I don't think I actually like lime a lot better than some lemon sometimes. Depends on the situation. I'm not sure what lime would do in that, but I bet it would be wonderful. I mean, it's mushroom ketchup. You can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. I believe that's it. Let's talk about these shirts one more time.
Yeah. So the shirts, we have a special reissue. This is where these are not constantly available. In fact, this is just the second small batch of these guys. I'll not wiggle it around. I put nutmeg on my nutmeg, and I do. So if you're interested in one of these t-shirts, you can't have enough nutmeg. Right there it is. I could put nutmeg on my nutmeg t-shirt.
You'll ruin it.
Yeah, no, you can't.
Oh,
You
that's
can't.
right.
You
It'll
can't
make it better.
Yeah,
Enhance
it'll
it.
smell wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if you could put this in the laundry and it would like get on your clothes.
It's like a Tide Pod.
Yeah,
Breaks down.
yeah, and except it wouldn't poison you. Anyway,
Oh.
if you're interested in it, I put nutmeg on my nutmeg t-shirt. Small time frame. Now's the time to check out that link. It's in the description. It's in the chat. That one's available, and another short run of the kettle t-shirt, the Savoring the Flavors and the Aromas of the 18th Century t-shirt. Both of those are back on the website for a very small period of time.
Yep.
Make sure to check that out.
And thanks to everyone who has bought some already. I see some
Right.
people saying they have. Thank you
They
so much.
already found it and bought it. Yes, thank you so much.
Sell them out.
While I'm here, let's talk about Patreon for just a second. We got some new Patreon people. I wasn't here last week. Man, we tried hard. We were at Martin Station, but you can't get a cell signal. You have to drive about 5 miles away to get a decent cell signal. We just couldn't do it. We had to talk to many people, so we couldn't do a live stream. But since then, let's see. There's John Paul Woodley is a new Patreon person. Valerie Kessler, Michael Bramble, and Matthew Wagner are all brand new Patreon supporters. Patreon's one of those ways that people can support us with just a small amount of money each month. It kind of automatically bills them. If you're interested in supporting us that way, that's the kind of thing that makes it so that I can invest in Stockfish, or the video that we just did, major investment to do a video like that with a special consultant that comes in and special materials that costs. So all these videos, they take a lot of resources to be able to produce, and that kind of support is what helps us to be able to do that. So
It was bonuses or Stockfish
yeah,
this year.
yeah,
You know,
your
Stockfish.
choice. You can want a bonus, or we're gonna do a Stockfish episode. Stockfish, it is.
We're all so excited.
Yeah.
I got a quick question about the t-shirts. Are there going to be any 4XL or 5XL sizes?
Did you see what
I
sizes
think
we
they
had?
only went up to 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we looked at what sold last year, and The numbers were low enough on those really on the smaller and bigger sizes that we just kind of shrunk that down a little bit. But don't blame me. Ryan ordered them, so I didn't make that decision.
All right. We've got a couple questions, and then we can do the lightning round.
Woo!
All right. This one says, "Hi, John. Do you know any place where we could do a retreat, in parentheses, and live in a complete 18th century environment with housing, food, clothing, etc. for a full experience?"
It depends on the time, or the length of time. And I think some historic sites do a program kind of like that for short periods of time. I think Genesee Country Village does a, live like a pioneer for a weekend or something. And I believe there's some other ones out there that do that, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. If you know of a program like that, put it in the chat. Make sure to check out that, because I know a couple other historic sites do something similar. That would be the only place I know, the only kind of way that kind of a program could be done currently. But, we're just going to have to all pitch in and find some 500 acres someplace and build a little 18th century village and then, and then have people come in. Like Fantasy Island, except 18th century. Except, no, I'm not going to go any further than that.
What
I'm just saying.
Oh my God. All I can think of is the plane. What colonial reenactments have you ever been to, and which ones would you recommend someone going to?
There are so many really, really good events I don't get a chance to go to. So I can only say that I would really suggest checking out Martin Station, the Wilderness Road State Park, Ewing, Virginia. They have programs throughout the year. It is a gorgeous site and a wonderful set of interpreters there. So I highly recommend that particular site and the events that go on there. The raid just over, so you're gonna have to wait till next year, but mark it on your calendar. Coming up in the fall, of course, we have Mississinawa 1812. It's just down the road from us. Always an excellent event. You're just going to have to check in your area. I am sure there's just some tremendous events. They have some great events up at Niagara, 4th of July weekend. That's a French and Indian War event. But I don't have any more just off the top of my head. But I know somebody could rattle off a dozen, and I would go, oh, yes, definitely. Let's see, Fort Loudon down in Tennessee. Again, they've got some great events there. It's a beautiful, beautiful site. There are just some incredible historic sites that just don't get seen enough. Search them out. They're wonderful.
All right. You ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we go. Did average people own many books?
No, probably not. But I'm not sure how many people own books today either. So,
can you do a video on candle making and one on bookbinding?
I've done a candle making book or a candle making video where we used the candle mold. It's ancient. It's like 7 or 8 years old. What was that?
We need to remake it.
Yeah, we need to remake it. And so, yes, and it doesn't have dip candles, and there's even more different ways to make candles. Yeah, we should do that. It's super duper easy suggestion for us to do. We just have to get out there and do it. Bookbinding. We got a bookbinder on the hook maybe for a video, so that's in the works.
What's the hardest thing you've ever cooked on your channel?
Ooh.
Stockfish.
Ooh. Well, Stockfish took really the longest because you got to soak it for all this time. And everything.
I got one.
Yeah.
It was right after we did it. We shot it the same day actually as fried chicken. It was cheese.
The cheese
fritters.
One? Cheese fritters.
Remember that one?
It was a lot of work.
Yeah, we had to keep
work.
Stopping and resetting.
Yeah, and of course another one of those. You take all this time and then we didn't title it right. That was probably it.
That one was difficult. I remember.
Yep.
I remember that shoot.
Yep.
Any good ghost stories from that century?
I don't have any. from that century. They're probably out there. And there was some interesting sort of people concerned about that. I'm trying to think of some particular reference, but not firsthand. It was they're always kind of secondhand. So,
Was beer served warm?
yeah, oh yeah. Well, they didn't have lots of coolers and refrigerators and ice, so drinking beer warm is pretty typical in that time period. Of course, now today our American beer is so well. No, I'm not even going to say that. We have a great new interesting beer culture that's happening in America versus what was happening 30 or 40 years ago. So I'm not going to say anything bad about American beer. Next.
John, have you written any books yourself?
No. People say, write a book, and then I say, well.
And last one, do you plan to go deeper into 18th century music? New releases, possibly.
Yes.
We do one more donation.
There you go.
Three donations,
Yes.
real quick, then we'll head out. Maggie Morehouse, thank you. Michelle E, thank you. Isn't nutmeg poisonous at some amounts? And then Teddy the Fourth, have you ever heard of Sybil Luddington? And do you agree she is better than Paul Revere?
Nutmeg, not necessarily poisonous, hallucinogenic, and probably not good for you in maximum, kind of amounts.
So like
but
a
you
Tide
would
Pod.
be amazed by how much they talk about putting in 18th century recipes. Most people would be just like, what? Grind up a whole nutmeg in this thing. And they didn't talk about hallucinating back then. But no, I wouldn't go crazy with nutmeg today.
Except for the shirts. Buy a bunch of those.
I always have a nutmeg around. A lot of times I carry one in my pocket just in case. Luddington, I'm not familiar with that. So, sorry. I can't answer that one at all.
Hey, you forgot to shout out. You forgot to shout out Locust Grove when you were talking about all the good sites.
Yeah, Locust Grove, and they have the market days in the fall, and they have the Jane Austen Festival, probably the hottest weekend of the year. So come on out in your wool, it's great. No, the Locust Grove site, really cool. They have some great programs, and I always like those kind of sites too. The beautiful trees and all that, and a great part of the country. So yeah, wonderful.
I think we're good. Got anything else?
Again, I want to thank Maggie. You're out there. Thank you for the laundry thing. That is going to be some. Aaron was looking at the footage.
It's looking awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait to get that one.
Wow, everybody, thank you so much. I want to thank everyone, especially you guys out there on your side of the camera. Your side of the internet. You're what makes the channel happen. It's really strange that I can think, I'm going to make a video that does this or that. And your response is what shapes the channel and takes it where it needs to go. And so you guys are the ones who help us make videos the way we make them. So thank you so much for commenting, for supporting us at Patreon, Super Chat, whatever it is. You buy a t-shirt, doesn't matter. Even if you just comment on a video, tell other people about it. So many people do that. That's what makes the channel grow. Thank you for everything you do. Thanks for watching.